work out for my future, my children's future, and this is where it's going to happen.
So, Samira, you're saying you think you can only do that inside an independent, separatist Quebec. You're not voting for Mr. Bouchard because you don't like the way the other teams have handled it. You've now made that fundamental decision.
I don't like the way our government, our actual government, has represented our province, the way they fought for, they have not fought for our rights. They have not considered us. And now we have someone and we will have a lot of candidates who will be representing us, and I'm going for that.
Okay, Samira Bashir, who spoke to us tonight from Montreal, leaning toward the Bloc Québécois. Coming next from Toronto, Sarabjit Gwagna, who hadn't decided who to support before tonight's debate. So have you made up your mind?
I think that I'm leaning towards Liberal, Jean Chrétien. I'm most definitely, I don't like the way pretty much anybody else handled themselves. Certainly not the way Kim Campbell handled herself. I mean,
what bothered you about that?
Well, she spoke about not wanting to make personal personal attack on the people on the stage, but she did exactly opposite that. She raised her voice. She was out of context. She was very defensive, which I noticed, and I'm sure everybody else noticed out there. And that bothered me very, very much.
All right, you're 22 years old. Why did Mr. Chrétien, or how did Mr. Chrétien speak to your concerns directly? What convinced you?
It was the job plan that they have in mind to target us, and I'm definitely sure that he will follow that plan through. I believe in that.
All right, Sarabjit Gwagna, thank you very much for talking to us from Toronto tonight.
Thanks.
Off now to Winnipeg, and from there tonight, Alan Levine, who was planning before tonight's debate to vote Liberal. So, Mr. Levine, how is it?
I think that I would still stick with the Liberals. I thought that Mr. Chrétien handled himself well under pressure, despite the fact that I think that he and as well as all the leaders really still talked around a lot of the economic issues. I'm still as probably confused about some of their numbers as I was before.
So why are you picking him then?
Well, I think the bottom line, it comes down to an element of trust. And I think despite the fact that the other leaders tried to gang up on him, his credibility, I think, remains strong. He handles himself well. And if I have to put my faith and my vote into one of those leaders, I would stick with Mr. Chrétien. I also happen to live in a riding where the Liberals under Lloyd Axworthy have served me well for many, many years. And after tonight...
But are you looking for a majority government? One of our earlier guests said maybe if we could balance these things off. Are you looking for a majority Liberal government, or would you like to see a minority with somebody else in there to inject some other ideas?
That's a tough question. I think that I could think that the Liberals could handle a majority government and do very well. Although I would hate to see the Bloc Québécois in opposition. I don't think that that would work particularly well. Maybe the Liberals and the Conservatives will have to work together. That actually might be a novel. A novel political dilemma.
That would be a novel approach. Alan Levine from Winnipeg, thank you very much for talking with us tonight. A little further west now to Calgary, Alberta, and to Janet Marshall, who intended to vote for the Reform Party. Janet, will you still be voting Reform after what you witnessed tonight?
Oh, definitely. After seeing the little performance of several of the other candidates, I'm even more committed to the Reform.
Because of what in particular?
Well, I think that there's too many of them that are using a good offense as a defense, particularly the Liberals and the Tories. They're probably, in all honesty, it heartened me to see Kim Campbell do such a poor job.
But you used to vote Tory in earlier lives. What's changed your mind?
Well, I still feel I still feel so enraged about what the Tories have done to the voters and the taxpayers that I can't even express myself in front of a mixed crowd. So there's probably nothing that Kim Campbell could have said to have swung me back to the Tories. They've had ample opportunity in the past to do something about the deficit, which was contributed to by the Liberals.
So your support for Preston Manning is also a message to the Conservatives, not just because you like his platform?
No, not necessarily. If the Tories had started talking about deficit reduction 4, 5, 6 years ago, then I would have continued to support them.
All right, Janet Marshall, thank you for your view tonight from Calgary, Alberta. And our last stop on this cross-country tour tonight is Victoria, British Columbia, Patrick Lane. He was once an NDP supporter. That was before this debate. He still wasn't sure who he would support as he headed into it tonight. So, Patrick, has Audrey McLaughlin brought you back into the fold?
No, Audrey hasn't brought me back into the fold, but I must admit that she was the most impressive of the leaders tonight on the platform. My problem with not voting NDP is my fear of splitting what little there is of the middle vote and the left vote, and the hopes that we can somehow get a minority Liberal government. So, and I'm also impressed by Jean Chrétien. So I think that my vote at this point is tending more towards Chrétien and the Liberals.
But you want a minority Liberal government, you just said.
Well, I think a majority Liberal government, but I don't think that's going to be possible. I don't think there's any doubt but that it'll be a minority government led by the Liberals, yeah.
All right, was there anybody else who convinced you tonight? How did you respond to Preston Manning?
Well, I mean, I find Preston Manning a little demigod myself. I find him despicable. I thought he was awful during the debate. I think he lectured people. I loved Audrey McLaughlin's comment, you know, don't you lecture me. I thought that was one of the best lines in the whole thing. He comes across as a kind of little school teacher, and his policies also really deeply disturb me. I just see thousands and thousands of jobs disappearing and people being turned into poverty by this man. So I just can't agree with his...
Despite Audrey McLaughlin's performance, and you keep giving her credit, you won't give her your vote.
No, because I don't want to split the central vote and the left-wing vote. So I'm going to send it all. I hope it goes to Jean Chrétien, which is for me very, very strange because I voted NDP many times in the past.
Well, there are lots of strange things going on in this campaign. Patrick Lane from Victoria, thanks very much for your views tonight.
Thank you.
Of course, millions of other Canadians were also watching tonight's debate, all making their own judgments about who won, who lost, and who had the answers. Prime Time's Terence McKenna was with one group of Canadians. He was recording the next edition of The Voter's Voice.
We've assembled a group of 40 undecided voters, their numbers equally divided between employed and unemployed. Tomorrow night on CBC Prime Time News, The Voter's Voice will show you the highlights of their moment-by-moment reactions to the debate. What were the key turning points for the undecided?
I've traveled this country, and it's